Quiet Place was directed by John Krasinski. Yes, Jim from The Office, believe it or not. Directed and stars in this pretty damn good horror movie. It's a really good horror movie, really good monster movie. Emily Blunt plays his wife, and in case you clicked on the title and did not see, spoilers from here on ahead. There's some really, really good themes about this. Marco Beltrami's music, he did some music for some of my favorite horror movies. The Scream franchise, The Faculty. I mean, okay, Scream 1 was the best of that bunch. But Marco understands how to use good music to set the right tone for a scene. And his music adds a ton to this. I mean, seriously, his music added a ton to Scream. Has added a ton to a lot of movies that he's done. But Krasinski directs a really good, it's a very Twilight Zone-esque movie. Like a lengthy Twilight Zone episode. Like almost like if they were to say do a 2.5 hour Twilight Zone movie, say on TV. I'm not saying this has TV movie-esque because the special effects are actually pretty good, but it has a very good story that would fit just fine with a lengthy Twilight Zone episode. These creatures that could be mutants, could be animals that were mutated, genetic experiments that escaped from a lab, aliens, they could be something that came from the pyramids. We don't know what they are. We're never told what they are. But we know that they hunt by sound, and if you make loud sound, you die. Like this one kid that played with a rocket ship that he shouldn't have played with, and he got killed. And Lee and Evelyn saw their son get killed in front of them. Well, that was on day 89, and that's where the movie starts out. And that's right after they got some medicine for their son Marcus, who's played by Nora Jupe. I don't actually. I'm really shouldn't even try to pronounce his name, but the kids all did fine in this. Emily Blunt, I think, really shined here. I think Emily Blunt's a very good actress. She's very beautiful. She's very well spoken in this movie when she speaks. But that's the thing about this movie, is because they can't make noise, and because they have a daughter who's deaf, Reagan, they obviously do sign language because they can't speak, they can't speak very loud. And they really shouldn't speak at all, because apparently these creatures can hear just about anything. I mean, literally can hear just about anything. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you're blind, and that's what these creatures are. They're blind, but they can hunt by sound. Sounds like the clickers from The Last of Us. Now, I'm not knocking. I mean, I like The Last of Us for what it was. This is not, of course, a zombie movie. These are just creatures that attack that hunt by sound. And it's just a coincidence that John Krasinski's character happens to look like the dad from The Last of Us. But if you're gonna borrow or flat out steal from movies, I mean, you might as well, or video games, you might as well steal from one that's pretty critically acclaimed. This was enjoyable though, from the way, like, if you notice, there's like paths, like, set in with not sand necessarily, it's like sand and grain and stuff like that, but there's paths like set up among this like abandoned city, and I don't know if they ever said where they were. I don't remember seeing any of the license plates and figuring out where it was. I think it's the rural Midwest. That would be my guess as far as like the crops and everything. But this was a very well done movie. Krasinski keeps the pace fast, light, I mean, with some heavy tones, obviously, because these are creatures trying to kill the family and trying to take out humanity, maybe because they used to be human or whatever. I don't know. We don't ever find that out, by the way. But that's not frustrating, because it's left open to interpretation. The one thing is, though, is when the creatures do expand their heads, like, and they listen with this, like, giant ear that's hidden, it reminded me very much of the clickers. I'm just going to say that, right? I might repeat that a few times, but it really did remind me. There were aspects of The Last of Us that this reminded me of. But the pace was done exceptionally well. It was kept fast, but not rushed. It was kept deep for what the story was, even though it was a simple story. But not like, oh, it's hammering you in the head with this stuff. It's leaving it open to interpretation for a lot of it. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about it. Emily Blunt, of course, at one point, and I mean, you see in the trailer, she's ended up pregnant. How in the world is she going to be able to give birth to a child When, women make a lot of noise during, childbirth, as expected, it's extremely painful. How in the world are you going to get through that? How in the world are you going to be able to do all the, do these things? How are you going to be able to keep a newborn quiet? It's a lot of scary things when we're so used to making noise, talking at least. If we get our voices taken away, or if we have no ability to use our voice, how do we communicate? But how are we able to do something when we can't even make a noise? How would you survive? That's a pretty good theme about this movie. Lee, John Krasinski's character, is working on different hearing aids for his daughter, but also a way to figure out how to, maybe combat these creatures. Because if they hunt, if they hunt based on sounds, maybe there's a way to combat how they act. And there is. It's high pitched sounds. That's actually pretty much. It's almost like the War of the Worlds thing, like how the aliens in that movie got taken down. It's often the simplest solution. It's just figuring out how to master it. And that's kind of the funniest thing about this is when the high pitched sounds start to clearly affect the clickers, not clicker creatures. It doesn't necessarily get silly though, because it makes sense. There's a bit of logic used with this movie. Is it the greatest horror movie like in the last 20 years? No, it's not even the greatest in the last 10 years. But it's damn effective. I mean, that whole thing of like not being able to make noise, and the mood and the atmosphere and the music and the direction and the acting's the acting's almost secondary. The acting's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I love Emily Blunt. I think she's vastly underrated. And John Krasinski needs another crack at horror movies. I think this could be pretty good for him. I don't know what else he's directed, honestly. But if he wants to stick with stuff like this and create thrillers and do stuff with monsters and keep the way he directs movies and do this kind of stuff, then great. Now I do want to say one thing is it does get a little hokey towards the end. Krasinski's character dies to save his kids, and they roll away in this truck that they put into neutral, and it happens to roll down this path towards the house conveniently. I mean, granted, you could probably it's an old truck, so you probably can steer the steering wheel, but still, it's kind of silly. And then, Emily Blunt's taking shelter with the newborn kid, but hands it off to her son, and of course Reagan figures out finally, wait a second, this thing that's hooked to my head, this hearing aid and this kind of thing, wait a second, this noise that's affecting my brain is affecting those creatures. Put it up to this giant microphone that my dad's been using to try and communicate with various people and failing miserably, and let's blow the creature's ears or whatever it is out. And that's pretty much what happens. It does get silly towards the end, but not so silly that you can't see it happening. Now, okay, would this obviously happen? No, but it is treated very well and with some good realism and stuff like that. It is silly, 100%. There's no, it's not that there's no logic to it, but it is a silly movie. But the way it's handled and the way it is treated, not as goofy, but yes, there are some comedic moments to it. It has a really good bite to it. Do I think that they're going to do a sequel? They almost seem to like imply they were going to do a sequel based on like the very end of it. I don't think so, but would I be surprised? No. I mean, I think if they did like A Quiet Place 2, The Last of Us, Electric Boogaloo, they would need to focus on various families, and it might get a little bit stretched. That was one thing I liked about this. This is how you do a small cast right. This is how you focus on the actors, focus on the family, and you get a really good sense that there's a really good bond between the families, or between the family, but it doesn't get sappy. I mean, people could argue it does get a little sappy. I didn't think it did. I think it seemed very genuine, and I really did enjoy this movie. And I'm going to give it a B+. It was damn good. It was damn good. B+, almost an A-. It was actually really that good. it waffles between that grade, but that's what I thought of A Quiet Place for The Last of Us. What did you guys think? Did you guys get any vibes of The Last of Us from it, or am I just crazy? I mean, I am crazy, but do you think maybe I'm just reading too much into it? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie. I really enjoyed it, but I would like to hear what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. Also, it's been Real Aussie with Jarmethlin. I'm Jarmethlin, and I will see you soon.